The bank notification should have been my first warning. It said there was strange activity on my account, but I was swamped with work, buried in spreadsheets and phone calls with clients. I barely looked at my phone before putting it aside. It wasn't until later, after my second cup of coffee wore off and I finally caught up on emails, that I checked my account. My heart dropped. The numbers didn't make sense. Zero. All the money in my checking, savings, and emergency account was gone. My hands started shaking as I looked through the list of transactions. I didn't recognize any of them: flights, fancy hotels, expensive stores. My breathing got fast and shallow. I instantly knew who did this. Amy.
My mom.
The woman I hadn't trusted for years. Hey, are you okay? Christine's voice snapped me out of it. She stood at the entrance of my cubicle, her face full of worry. I held up my phone. My account, it's empty. Her eyes went wide. How is that even possible? I swallowed.
My throat felt dry.
The joint account from college. I never closed it. Christine pulled up a chair and sat beside me. Call her. I already was. It rang once, twice, then went to voicemail. I tried again and again. Nothing. My heart was racing. I have to go home. The drive back was a blur. My mind was spinning with panic and disbelief. How could she do this? She'd seemed different lately, more stable, more involved. I let my guard down. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed right away her car was gone. The front door was locked, but everything inside looked normal. For a second, I hoped I was wrong. Then I saw the letter. It was sitting on the kitchen counter. Her handwriting was neat and careful. Dearest Gemma, by the time you read this, I'll be overseas. I'm sorry, but I needed a fresh start. You'll understand someday. Love, Mom. The words became blurry as my fingers gripped the paper tightly. I couldn't breathe. Understand? I whispered, my voice shaking. She emptied my account and wants me to understand? A loud scream burst out of me, full of pain and anger. The house was completely silent, like even it had been left behind. Then my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't know. Hello? Is this Laura Bush? A man's voice. It sounded professional.
Yes.
Who's this? My name is James Woods. I'm your grandmother Anna's lawyer. I've been trying to reach you. I grabbed the edge of the counter. What is this about? I'm sorry to tell you, but your grandmother passed away last week. The room spun. Grandma Anna, the only one who ever stood up to my mom. The woman who paid for my first semester of college when Mom tried to stop me from going. The one who always told me to fight for what I deserved.
Gone.
James kept talking, something about her will, a meeting, legal stuff, but I couldn't take it in. I was still holding my phone tightly when another voice reached me. I came as soon as I could. I turned and saw John standing in the doorway. He knelt beside me, calm and steady. His presence felt familiar and safe.
Christine called, he said.
She thought you might need backup. I let out a shaky breath. She took everything, every last cent. And now, Grandma's gone too. He sat beside me, his shoulder touching mine. You know what she always said, he reminded me. Never let anyone steal your dreams. I nodded and wiped my tears. She believed in me. She still does, he said gently. And you're not alone in this.
My phone buzzed again.
Another message. Hey, your mom just emailed the office saying you're taking time off for a family emergency. Everything okay? My stomach turned. I showed John the screen. She's covering her tracks, I whispered, making sure no one wonders where I am. She planned this. She did, he said, his voice cold. Getting close again. Gaining your trust. Just so she could take what she wanted. The numbness I felt was fading. Now, something sharper was rising inside me. Anger. Determination. What are you thinking? John asked, watching me closely. I stood up, straightening my back. I'm thinking about what Grandma Anna always used to say. He waited. Sometimes, I said slowly, karma needs a little help. James's office was too warm. The kind of warmth that made the walls feel like they were closing in. I sat stiffly in a leather chair, hands in my lap, while he sorted through a thick pile of papers. Before we begin, he said, adjusting his glasses, I want to say how sorry I am. Anna wasn't just a client. She was a dear friend. I swallowed hard. Thank you. I still can't believe she's gone. She talked about you often, James said as he pulled out a thick envelope and slid it across the desk. In fact, you were her main concern during our last meeting. Just then, the door opened, and Christine walked in. Sorry I'm late, she said, sitting beside me and gently squeezing my hand under the table. I had asked her to come with me. I didn't want to face this alone. As you know, James continued, your grandmother was a smart businesswoman. The boutique hotel chain she built is now worth about $15 million. My head snapped up. $15 million? And that's just the hotels, he added, sliding another paper toward me. There's also her personal belongings, investment accounts, and several properties. Christine gripped my hand tighter. I could barely focus on the numbers. Only one thought kept repeating in my mind. Mom. She left everything to you, Laura, James said. Every asset, every building, every cent. I could hardly breathe. But what about my mother? James's face turned serious. Anna was very clear. She didn't include Amy in the will. She said, and I quote, "My daughter has taken enough." A shaky, shocked laugh came out of me. Mom is going to lose her mind when she finds out. She already knows, James said quietly. She's been calling my office every day, threatening to fight the will. From New Zealand, I muttered. How convenient. There's something else, James said as he opened a drawer and pulled out an old leather journal. Anna left this for you. She asked me to give it to you in private. The journal looked old and soft from use. I ran my fingers over the cover, then opened it to a page that had been marked. My dearest Laura, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But I've watched you grow into a strong, capable woman, even though Amy tried to keep you under her control. The money I left you isn't just wealth, it's freedom. Use it wisely. And remember, sometimes the best way to deal with a snake is to let it think it's winning until it falls into its own trap. All my love, Grandma Anna. My hands were shaking as I closed the journal. The door opened again, and Christine came back in alone. You okay? She asked, sitting beside me. I looked at the journal, then at her. She knew, I whispered. Somehow, Grandma knew Mom would pull something like this. What are you thinking? Christine asked. Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a message. It was an email from my mom. Anna's death is such a shock, darling. I know this must be a hard time for you. We should talk about the will. I'm sure we can work something out. Call me. Love, Mom. Christine read it over my shoulder and shook her head. She's unbelievable, she said. She steals all your money, runs away, and now she still thinks she deserves part of the inheritance? I stood up and started pacing. You know what's crazy? A part of me still wants to believe her, I said. That's how convincing she is. Even now, she almost has me fooled. Christine crossed her arms. So, what's the plan? A plan was already forming in my mind, clear, bold, and a little scary. We let her think she's winning, I said slowly. Tell James to accidentally mention that I'm thinking about sharing the inheritance. Christine's eyes widened. You want her mom to come back? I picked up Grandma's journal. Fine, I whispered. Let's give her a reason to come home. The master bedroom had always been off limits to my mom. It was the one room in Grandma's house she had never been allowed to enter. Now it would be the perfect trap. She's going to love this, Christine said as we stood in the doorway, looking at the room. She'll think she's finally won. I fluffed the pillows and made sure everything looked perfect, fancy, comfortable, safe. And then she'll walk right into the trap, Christine added with a grin. We had hidden cameras in every corner. The safe in the closet was filled with fake but expensive-looking jewelry, and it was set to start recording when opened. The laptop in the room had tracking software. Every email she sent, every call she made using the house's Wi-Fi would be sent straight to me. Christine's phone buzzed. She booked a flight, she said. She lands tomorrow morning. Perfect. The next morning, John waited at the airport holding a sign with Mom's name on it. She walked out of the terminal in designer sunglasses, pretending to be modest. "Where's Laura?" she asked, looking around. "She's busy with the hotels," John said smoothly. "She asked me to pick you up." As they drove to the house, I watched everything through the security cameras. I saw how her eyes moved around, taking everything in. She smiled when she saw the master bedroom. That night, while sitting in my office, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Darling, I know I've made mistakes, but let's talk. We're family. We can figure out what's fair together." I looked at the message. Then I looked at the live camera feed. She was already trying to open the safe. "She thinks she's tricking me," I said. Christine leaned over my shoulder. "But she has no idea what's really happening." I typed out a reply. "Of course, Mom. Let's talk." I hit send. On the camera, she smiled as she read my message. "Game on," I whispered. The master bedroom sparkled under the soft light of the chandelier. The silk curtains moved gently with the night breeze. This room had always been my mother's dream, to live here, to be seen as the true heir to Grandma Anna's empire. Now it was her golden cage. "This is next-level mind games," Christine said, standing in the doorway. I loved how it looked. The closet was filled with fancy designer clothes, each one still with a security tag. The safe in the corner sparkled with shiny jewelry, not real, but good enough to catch her attention. On the desk sat a modern-looking laptop, already loaded with fake money documents. "She won't be able to resist this," I said softly, tapping on my phone. David, our tech guy, had set up the whole room. Every drawer, every cabinet, and every device had hidden cameras. If she tried to open the safe, use the computer, or send an email, it would all be recorded. John walked in and dropped a stack of papers onto the desk. "Here are the final pieces. Fake property papers, fake investment deals, all pointing to things that don't really exist." I flipped through them and nodded. "Good. She'll think she's found her next big score." Christine crossed her arms. "So, what's the plan in the end?" "We let her think she's in control," I said, glancing at the live camera feed on my phone. "Then we let her trap herself with her own greed." As soon as Mom arrived, she put on her best act. "Oh, sweetheart," she cried, wrapping me in a hug that smelled like expensive perfume and lies. "I've missed you so much." I didn't hug her back. She pulled away slowly, her hands staying on my arms as she looked at my face. "I know I made mistakes, Laura," she said. "I just want to fix things." "Of course," I said with a smile. "That's why I wanted you to stay here, so we can rebuild." Her eyes flashed with something cold and sneaky. "I'd love that," she whispered. I led her to the master bedroom. The second she walked in, I saw it, the greedy look on her face. Her fingers touched the fancy furniture, the soft velvet bedding, the shiny wooden vanity. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's all yours while you're here," I replied. She glanced at the closet, the safe, the laptop. I had to work hard not to smile. "Take your time getting settled in," I said, pretending to be warm. "We'll talk later." As soon as I stepped out, I opened the live camera feed on my phone. Mom didn't waste a second. First, she opened the closet and ran her hands over the designer clothes. Then, she moved to the safe, trying a few codes before giving up with a sigh. Next, she sat down at the desk and opened the laptop. Her eyes grew wide as she read through the fake documents. Just like I expected, she took out her phone and started snapping pictures. Christine watched over my shoulder and smiled. She's making her move. By the next morning, Mom had already reached out to a few possible investors. "She's been emailing and calling real estate agents and money backers," David reported. "She's using the fake contracts as bait." John let out a deep breath. "She's really going all in, huh?" "Of course she is," I said, leaning back in my chair. "This is the biggest scam she's ever tried to pull." Christine glanced at her phone. She just confirmed a lunch meeting with 3 investors at the Blue Lotus tomorrow. I smiled. Perfect. The next afternoon, the Blue Lotus was crowded. I spotted Mom right away. She was sitting at a corner table, dressed to impress, smiling wide. 3 well-dressed men sat across from her, listening closely as she waved around the fake contracts. Thomas was beside her, her old partner in crime, nodding like he believed every word. I headed to the bar, where Christine was sitting with a martini. Her phone was propped up carefully, filming the whole thing. "She's promising them early access to hotel investments," Christine whispered. "Guaranteed 20% profits. Same trick, new location." My phone buzzed. It was David. "She just tried to email those contracts to someone." "Got it," I replied. "We stopped it in time." I turned to Christine. "It's time." She pressed a button on her phone, triggering a fake call across the restaurant. Mom's phone rang. She stepped away from the table to answer. Christine had changed her voice to sound official. "Mrs. Peter, this is Janet from First National Bank's fraud department. We need to talk about some unusual activity on your account." From where I sat, I saw Mom's face go from confident to nervous. She muttered something quickly and hung up. I stood, straightened my jacket, and walked toward the table. "Mom," I said loudly as she returned, making her freeze in her tracks. "What a surprise running into you here." Her face turned pale. "Laura, what are you doing here?" The investors turned to me, curious. "Oh, I was just thinking about business," I said, sitting down beside her. I picked up one of the fake contracts and held it up. "Like these." One of the investors frowned. "You know about these deals?" "Of course," I said, smiling at my mom. "It's amazing, really, how someone can make up fake contracts using old hotel names and false numbers." The investors suddenly looked very serious. "What?" one of them asked sharply. Mom forced a laugh. "Sweetheart, you must be confused." I took out my phone and tapped the screen. A security video started playing. It showed her in the master bedroom, taking photos of the documents and trying to open the safe. The investors jumped to their feet. "This is a scam," one of them said angrily, throwing the papers down. "I can explain," Mom said, panic rising in her voice. But they were already leaving. Thomas tried to sneak out, but Christine stepped in front of him. "Not so fast," she said firmly. Mom turned to me, her voice shaking. "Why would you do this to me?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "Because you taught me how." Her perfect act finally fell apart. "You ruined me," she whispered. "No," I replied coldly. "You ruined yourself." I looked around one last time at the mess she had made, the lies, the shame, and then I turned and walked away. Total embarrassment. Public shame. And the best part? She never saw it coming. Later, she sat across from me in an office. Her shoulders were slouched, no longer proud or proud-looking. She didn't look anything like the confident woman who had walked back into my life just days ago, dressed in fancy clothes and full of fake charm. That mask had finally broken. "You set me up," she whispered. I leaned back in my chair, hands folded.
"No, Mom.
"I just let you be who you really are." Her hands tightened in her lap. "I was going to pay you back." I let out a sharp breath and shook my head. "That's always your excuse, isn't it? You always say you'll make things right later. But you never do. You keep taking and promising to fix it someday." Tears filled her eyes. Real ones, not the fake ones she used so many times before. "Laura, I know I've done awful things, but I'm still your mother." I looked at her, the woman who had used me like a tool, like a backup plan, like a way to get what she wanted. "I know," I said softly. "That's why I'm giving you a choice." She blinked. "A choice?" I slid an envelope across the desk. Inside is a one-way ticket to Idaho. A small town. Quiet. No more scams. No more tricks. Just a chance to start over. Her fingers shook as she picked it up. "And if I don't take it?" I placed a second folder on the desk. "Then I give this to the police. It has everything, proof of your lies, your scams, statements from people you hurt. I press charges. You'll lose everything. And this time, there won't be a way out." Silence filled the room. She looked down at the ticket. "Idaho," I said. "A quiet town, a small job, an apartment, and enough money to last 7 months. After that, you're on your own. No tricks. No shortcuts. A real life." She looked up at me. "And You think I can just change? I don't know, I said honestly. That's up to you. She let out a bitter laugh. I don't deserve this. No, I said. You don't, but I do. Her eyebrows pulled together. I deserve to know I at least tried, I said. Tried to break the cycle. To walk away knowing I gave you a real chance to be better. Her hands tightened around the ticket. When do I leave? Just then, the office door opened and John walked in. He looked at me with a question in his eyes. I nodded. She's ready. Mom rose slowly, looking at me, then at the envelope. You're really sending me away? You did this to yourself. For a moment, I thought she might argue, try to twist things one last time. But instead, she let out a shaky breath and gave a small nod. She walked toward the door, then stopped. You really are Anna's granddaughter, she said softly. She would have been proud. I watched her walk out. The door closed behind her. Only then did I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. Christine walked in a few minutes later, holding 2 glasses of wine. Well, that was intense, she said. I took one glass and sipped slowly. You okay? She asked. I nodded, even though my chest still felt tight. I think so. Christine sat across from me, her eyes watching closely. And now? I slid another folder across the desk. She opened it, eyebrows raised. A restitution fund, I explained. I'm using the hotel profits to start paying back the people Mom scammed. It won't fix everything, but it's something. Christine let out a slow breath. That's a big thing to take on. Are you sure? I have to be. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You're a better person than she ever was. Maybe, I said. But that doesn't mean I'll be like her. Months passed. I threw myself into work, into running the hotels, and into making sure Grandma's legacy stood for something good. The restitution fund kept growing. Quiet, small payments were sent to the families my mother had hurt. And even though I didn't want to, I kept checking on her. She was still in Idaho. She was working at a small cafe, wiping tables, pouring coffee. No scams. No stolen money. Just a quiet, simple life. And so, one cold winter morning, I found myself sitting in a car outside that cafe. I stared through the frosted window, watching as she refilled a customer's coffee cup. She looks different, John said from the driver's seat beside me. Yeah, I whispered. Her hair was no longer perfectly styled. Her nails weren't done. She looked real. You sure you want to go in? He asked. I nodded. I have to. He gave me a gentle look. I'll be right here. I stepped out. The bell above the door jingled as I walked in. Mom had her back to me, restocking sugar packets. We're closing in 10 minutes, she said without turning around. I swallowed hard. Hello, Mom. She froze. Slowly, she turned around. Her eyes widened. Laura? I sat down at the counter. Coffee. Black. Her hands shook a little as she poured the coffee. When she slid the cup in front of me, she whispered, Are you here to see if I'm still a fraud? No, I said quietly. I already know. Her lips pressed together. I took out an envelope and slid it across the counter to her. Her fingers shook as she opened it. Inside, wrapped in soft tissue paper, was Anna's silver mirror. Her breath caught. Why? I looked into her eyes. Because change has to start somewhere. Tears filled her eyes. She reached toward me, but then stopped herself. I didn't move. She gave a small nod, swallowing hard. Will I see you again? I thought about everything. The lies, the betrayal, the hurt. And still here we were. I stood up. Maybe. Then I turned and walked toward the door. Just before I stepped outside, I looked back. She was holding the mirror close, staring into it. For the first time, it looked like she was really seeing herself. And for now, that was enough.